So talk to us about how this relates to the work that you maybe tell us about your farm first, but then we were talking earlier about soil and compost and how important that is for your operation.
So Hoke and I kind of view two sides of the same thing. And you do it in a very focused, nurturing way, and we do it in a very anarchic, chaotic way in the aperture. But we kind of do the same thing. So I've been farming for almost 50 years. I'm from a long line of Iowa farmers who are still farming. My mother couldn't wait to leave the farm, and when I went to Cornell and got a degree in pomology, my grandfather called me and said, "You can't learn how to farm from a book early." And he was right. And my mother told me I was wasting my Cornell education when I got a farm. But that was 50 years ago, and so what we're farming in the most regenerative way we can. And when I bought my first orchard, we decided right away we're going whole turkey. No herbicides, no chemical fertilizers. So what we're trying to do is provide a habitat. Does that answer the question?
Definitely answered the question. And I'm glad the microphone came back on because this is a podcast version of the farmyard stage, and we kind of need audio.
Right, because we're recording these. That was great. Nathaniel, so you've been to many farms, and I am curious if it has changed the way that you think about food and the way that you eat at all.
I feel like Farm Aid is kind of always aligned with the way I eat and the way I think. Sometimes it's hard to make the right decisions when you're traveling as much as I do, or you're really limited. But I still come here every year to learn, and I think that's the goal, is for us all to leave here with more information than we came with in terms of farming and how that affects our daily life. And so even in composting, this is a long conversation with me and my partner. She's always like, "I can't believe we're going to throw this away." But she also, for years, was in New York City, which had a composting program, and Greenpoint in Brooklyn, where she lived, and then moved to kind of just outside Denver in a rural area of Colorado, where I'm at now. And I have an issue with composting because I have bears. And I've even bought this ridiculous, giant compost bear-proof thing that as soon as it showed up, I was like, this isn't bear-proof, I've seen bears, cut open a big metal duster lid like it was the tin can, and so just to peel it back. So I was like, this is a eat. So we are still trying to figure out a good way to compost at my house without bringing your all the critters in, to say hello, because we also have big cats, or bobcats, coyotes, all the things. And so there was a while where next to my little garden, I had a little bin I had made just out of old pallets. But that was also sort of like the neighborhood feeding trough for the bears. And my neighbor was not very stoked that I was throwing scraps out there, because bears love to come and get easy food, so. But it's hard, especially living in the country, when you're throwing away food waste that could be going back into the soil, and then on a larger scale, just continuing to contribute to gases that those things are going to emit in a landfill, So I'm with my partner, but then there's also composting's not fun because it's gross food waste. And I've been a little reluctant, to be honest, because I'm one that ends up having to scrape out a moldy container that my partner was like, "No, we've got to compost." And I was like, "What? Why do I've been taking out the trash since I was a kid. It's my least favorite chore, and I feel like composting's right there with it. So, but regardless, it's a messy job. Kudos. Thank you all for what you're doing to help contribute to regenerative soil and for cleaner air. I can all of those. That's what we all should be doing.
Often we talk about any of these issues regarding family farming, and we talked about was what can people do, what can all eaters do, right, to be able to contribute to the cause, and also how do you scale up? How do we make this the dominant paradigm? So I don't know if you want to respond to Nathaniel. Is there like a cleaner way to do it so we don't all get all nasty? Or
Let me make it a two-part question, too, because I'm curious, like, how can I advocate to, I don't know, potentially change legislation to get the composting program in Denver or even Littleton, Colorado, because I feel like it's something I would love to have if there was a possibility, but I don't even know where to start. So.
Those are two excellent questions. And in terms of scaling up, I would say that there's lots of different ways. A good way that if you don't want to deal with your compost outside, the bears would be a worm bin inside your house. Apartment users and people that don't want to go outside, you can get a worm bin. We have red wiggler worms at our table over there if you want to check them out.
I'll take it out. I was like, oh, that sounds messy.
It is messy, but also being one with the soil has so many health benefits, and the microbes in the soil, those are the microbes that are going into your gut, that's going into the health of our bodies, and the healthy people and healthy bodies will make healthy communities and a healthy America. So we really need to focus on the soil if you want to have a healthy America. And a way we can do that is to vote and ask our legislation to support composting, to support family farmers, to support actions that will increase our soil health and our family farms.
It's about advocacy, and I'm embarrassed to report that recently in New York City, Grow NYC, how many farmers markets? We have 55 or 70. We had one of the strongest farmers market-based composting programs in the country, and the city decided to do away with it. It was very shocking. We fought for it. Thousands of people signed petitions because people could come to the farmers market with their food waste. I mean, it's so important, and it was defunded. So, and I think something like 80 people lost their jobs. So we have to fight. We can't rest on our laurels. We need to reform the USDA. We need to crack open these public monies, and we have to educate them constantly. I mean, we were so blindsided by the fact that after all our years of work in New York City, you still didn't get it. Some people still didn't get it. So it's a long journey, but we're going to save the planet. So we have to do it.
Yeah, Liz, you were telling me yesterday that your farm has had some impacts from climate change, especially as a stone fruit grower or as an apple grower. Can you talk about what you experienced?
I mean, climate change in this room, we don't have to convince anybody. The hots are hotter, the colds are colder, the wets are wetter, the dries are drier. And it was said very eloquently on the stage of press conference. It's a wild ride if you are a fruit grower. Last year, there were 28 degrees one night in May from Canada down to Georgia. And Georgia had no peaches. They lost 90% of their crop. I lost 90% of my crop. Vermont lost 90% of their crop. And this is becoming normative. So we have to have good sites. We have to have good technology. We have to be thoughtful. A lot of people are growing fruit in greenhouses, believe it or not. What now horrifies me, but on so many levels. We need crops that are resilient. I have 5 farms in 5 locations, and our farm that's close to the river had a full crop because it's a relatively frost-free environment. But that's a very expensive, that kind of diversification is very, very challenging. So, a lot of people are working on new crops. We were talking about chestnuts and agroforestry and mycorrhizae and the soil and biome and all of that. And it's all connected.
And Nathaniel, just hearing this, I mean, I guess this is why you come here. This is why you follow the Willie Nelson model of showing up for farmers. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that, about the role that you think artists have in amplifying these kinds of messages?
Yeah, well, we're fortunate enough to have a platform. And, nowadays, I feel like my actions usually reflect what my views are. But we've also come to a point in our culture and in our nation, it feels so divisive. My role as an artist, I feel sometimes my core values and what I would want to speak to people will cause more divisions. And what I'm really trying to do is bring people together and to really celebrate our differences, which I think we need to learn to do as a culture more in the U.S. Because I think it is what makes us so unique is cultures from everywhere around the world has enriched us, whether that's from my German relatives to the farmers in Arkansas, generations of my family from their area in Missouri. The instruments they brought with us, the songs we brought with us. We're a nation of immigrants. And that all said, I just feel like mostly it's about information, getting information out to people. I'd love to approach that in a neutral way so that it's not off-putting of some people who have different views than I do. But like I said, I think I'm trying to come at it with a place of love and understanding and curiosity, and not so much about like what views that we have politically or socially or even our religious values. I think all of those are important things and we should cherish our differences. But how do we come together? And, I feel like it's hard to talk about climate change if, a huge portion of the information we're getting, whether that be from the news or however we get our information, says that doesn't exist. So we have people that are denying a change, like, well, there's no global warming, it's cold this year. Well, that is a direct fact of that. And I feel like the broader preaching required here because farmers are seeing the effect of it, like 90% of your crop being lost, like that's a loss you or through. It's like how do you make up? What do you do the next year? Like, you know what I mean? Like
We sell a lot of cider donuts. Now, eat your cider donuts. But I think farmers, if I can jump in on it, don't really have a safety net. A lot of parts of the world, if you go to Europe, there's a lot of different kinds of support. And we're still experiencing a lot of farm loss in the Mutsu Valley. And when you're farming and you lose, we lost $1 million last year, and we're a small farm. How do you make that up? This year we're having an amazing year of abundance, by the way. The biggest crop of my life and incredible fruit. So yeah. And we are pretty sure that next year might not be as good as this year. But, you diversify, and there's a lot of technology coming down the pike that helps, and we're learning a lot about remediation. But a lot of us can't afford that technology. It's like really expensive. So again, it comes back to policy, cracking open federal money, local money, and there's a lot of farmer-to-farmer help we do. It's amazing in our ag community. No matter who we vote for, we help each other, and we help each other whether it's crop loss or abundance. We share equipment, and that's a very lovely thing to be part of.
Thank you so much.